Hi everyone, happy Tuesday. Natasha Vorogushin here, and I have my own page called Tash Can Cook. I'm a personal cook, culinary instructor as well. I teach a lot of cooking classes, and I do a bit of catering here and there also. So I pretty much provide all sorts of culinary services. Warragul Farmers Market, I do demos there sometimes as well, and other festivals and that sort of thing. So thank you for tuning in and having me on a guide to Sardinia tonight. So I'm pretty lucky I snagged the Tuesday night spot for cooking. Anyway, today we will be making, bit of a sore back here, stretch. Anyway, we will be making Polish pierogi. So I was going to make steam buns. My little girl, Paisley is her name, she kept asking me for steam buns, and I thought, oh yeah, I've got some pork mince and I've got some beautiful snow or pea sprouts that I've been growing myself. That would be perfect for it. But I went for a walk with the dogs the other day. Just down the road from me is a little bushland reserve, and every year I find beautiful, amazing, edible agaricus mushrooms which pop up there. And last year there weren't many, but this year, wow, there were so many coming up. So it's making up for a bad season from the last one. Hi Meg, how are you? Nice to see you tuning in. So along with picking these agaricus mushrooms, which are the same species as your shop mushrooms, just the button ones, or the Swiss browns as well, they're also agaricus too. And there are so many different types of agaricus mushrooms which are mostly edible. I've done a few videos already on how to ID agaricus. If you head on over to my community, MYCO MMUNITY, my community, there's a couple of videos there on how to identify your local agaricus which might be growing within your neighborhood. So hi Carol, nice to see you tuning in too. Hi Mel. So yes, with these agaricus, they're very much flavorful mushroom, and I thought to myself, and I saw some onion weed growing at the same time, and I thought, I've got these beautiful ingredients, what can I do with them? Sure, I could put them in a steam bun, which would have been perfectly delicious also, but with our time restraints and things, steam buns take or they're made with a yeasted dough, whereas pierogi, there's no yeast involved. It's so quick, a very quick dough. And I've got so many potatoes also from my garden, so we harvested, I don't know, 20 kilos or something. So between me and the twins, it's going to last us a very long time. So I thought, perfect. Potatoes, mushrooms, some angled onion weed, and we have a lovely filling for some Polish pierogi. So I have a bit of an Eastern European influence as well. I'm part Chinese, part Russian, so I love a lot of the Eastern European food. And growing up in my teen years, I had a Polish best friend, and her mum, Grażyna is her name, was such an inspiration to me. And I always loved going over there for meals because she'd make this amazing pierogi, which is a Polish dumpling. So I have a lot to thank Grażyna for teaching me all this traditional Polish food as well, and being able to tap into that Eastern European heritage that I'm descendant from as well. So I thought I'll leave the Chinese behind for this week and let's go to Europe. So here we go. I'll just pop you back on my trusty Glen 20 can. There we are. All right. So I've got these agaricus here, which I've just chopped up already. Save some time. But this is one of the matured ones. And if you have a look at my page, you'll be able to see some photos which I've put up of the agaricus as well. So that'll give you a bit of a better view of what this mushroom, this beautiful mushroom, looks like in its natural habitat. Flipping it over, you'll see these lovely gills underneath, and they do vary in colour depending on their maturity. So they start out quite pale and pink, and they darken as they mature. This here, the stem, is what we call a stripe. There's usually a what we call a skirt or a veil remnant, which means when it's at button stage, it's closed up, and the veil, as it opens up, stays on the stem. So that's one way to ID these agaricus as an agaricus species anyway. And if I just do this, the stem should snap off the cap. And that is one of the features of having an agaricus species. Anyway, enough about mushrooms. Let's get on with the cooking part of things. I thought I won't chop this one up yet because I wanted to show you what they look like. And there is another thing with smell of these. So this smells beautifully earthy and shroomy, and you'll see they don't stain yellow when you give it a scratch and a bruise. If these go yellow, I would probably avoid those. There is one other species which is a golden staining one, which is edible, but for the moment, let's just say if it stains yellow, it's probably one of the nasty ones. Won't kill you, but it'll give you a tummy ache. These ones go anywhere from like a pink to a brown and a red, even when cut and bruised. So that's one way to identify these. Always happy to take messages of pictures and that sort of thing, a phone call, whatever it is. If anyone needs help with identifying, please feel free to reach out and contact me for more information on mushroom identification. Okay, so let's start with the dough. It's a very, very easy dough. So we're going to use 3 cups of plain flour. Just regular old plain flour. And that goes. And to the flour, just adding about half a teaspoon or so of salt. Just a little sprinkle. And we have, I'm making single. Yes, I'm not doubling this one. Right, I had to think for a second. Hi Lynn, how are you? So I am putting in 1 cup of sour cream. This is full fat sour cream. I've never made it with light sour cream before, so I mean you could give it a go. I wouldn't see it making a massive difference. It's up to you really. I think at one point even I was out of sour cream and I just used Greek yogurt or natural yogurt as a replacement, so that's another option. You could give that a go. It tends to be lower in fat as well. So we've just got 1 cup of sour cream, 3 cups of flour, about half a teaspoon or so of salt, 2 eggs whisked, so that's just going to go in as well. And that's pretty much your dough. You just mix it up until it forms into a ball. One other thing I actually really like doing though is putting my chopped herbs into the dough, because when you're cooking it, you can see the green speckles on the pastry and it looks so pretty. You can use dill or parsley, chives, that sort of thing. I've just got some parsley here. Now I did want to get some dill, but then because I don't have any growing in my garden. And I was at the shops earlier. I thought, oh, I could pick some up, but it's just a cost I don't really need to spend at the moment. I'm happy with parsley, and because I did pick up some beautiful angled onion as well, I'll be using some of that in the filling itself, so I didn't want to overpower with too many flavors. So simply mix it all in together. Now, different flours will have different absorption qualities as well. If that's the case, you can just add a little bit more sour cream if you feel like it's too dry. My eggs here are a little bit on the smaller side. I've got 600 gram eggs rather than the usual 700 or so. But it should come together. Just give that a good mixing in. At this stage, like you can see, it's pretty crumbly. I'd probably get in here with my hands and just give it a really good knead. You can use a stand mixer if you like with a dough attachment. That's quite simple to use. Probably should have put a glove on to avoid having to spend a few minutes at the sink washing all the dough off. But that's okay. I'm sure you'll forgive me. So this particular dough, you'll find as you roll it out as well, that it can shrink a little bit. So you roll it out, cut your circles, and shrinks back a little bit. That's fine, because as you're filling it, you just roll it again just a little bit to flatten it out a little bit more. So it's not quite as intensive as pasta dough. When you're doing pasta dough by hand, you are kneading for a good 10 minutes straight, just to work all that gluten. With this particular dough, you just want it to come together, and that's pretty much all you need to do. So we're almost there. And usually I do let this sit in the fridge, or it doesn't even have to be in the fridge, for about half hour, 20 minutes to half an hour, while I'm preparing and mixing up the filling for it. And yeah, so then you only really need a short resting time, but we won't be waiting half an hour today because I've got most of the filling ingredients pre-cooked and ready, apart from the mushrooms, because I really wanted to show you guys those mushies. So you can see now we've got a big ball of dough. At this point, I wouldn't worry too much about incorporating all the crumbs. As I mentioned, like if you had bigger eggs, that probably would have incorporated a lot better. Wearing a long sleeve cardigan's never a clever idea for handy, dirty dough kneading work. Oh gosh. Anyway, just a quick knead on the bench. Make sure it's all incorporated. And this dough just comes out so smooth, and we'll be pan frying these as well. So we'll boil them up first and then give them a quick fry with some bacon and onion as well, extra onion. And that's pretty much the dough done. You can see it's all incorporated. It's nice and pliable, and you'll easily be able to roll that out. And you've got the beautiful colour of the parsley through there as well. So I will just leave that there while we go and cook up some onion and the mushrooms. So we'll head on over to the stove. All right, you just sit there, baby, and have a good sleep. My hands actually didn't come out that bad at all. They'll just brush off, really. So that's okay. Oh, hi Heike, how are you? So I've got my favourite apple cardi on. So not just reserved for Christmas and the festive season, but yeah, anyway, we're back over here at the stove. Just set the angle up. How's that? That looks okay. All right, so pan on. I am feeling quite hot. I might have to take the cardi off. Some butter. So you want a good dollop of butter in your pan. And mushrooms can be quite absorbent of oils and that sort of thing. Just try and get that light off the top of my head. Is that any better? Not really. Downlights. Anyway, so a good knob of butter into the pan. Those mushrooms, hey? So throw in about one diced onion. I've just got them not like too finely chopped, but chopped pretty small anyway. So I'm reserving some of these. I've got 2 onions in here. So I'm just reserving some for the topping afterwards. So you'll find that when mushrooms cook, they shrink a lot, and there's really not all that much to them after they're cooked. So I didn't weigh out how many I had here, but it's a decent sized bowl full. You don't have to add mushrooms to this if you don't want as well. It can be quite kept quite simple. So what's going into the filling will be potato, which I've mashed, and ricotta cheese and cream cheese. That's the other word I was looking for. So along with your cheeses and your potato, some sautéed onion, just to give that nice flavour in there, so you're not left with raw tasting onions. Don't want that crunchy raw flavour in it. And then just into the pan goes those mushrooms. And so I'm glad that my boy Phoenix is in the lounge room not hearing what I'm saying, because he hates mushrooms. That's one thing he really struggles with eating, but often I will chop them up quite small and put them in things like dumplings, like the pierogi or wontons, or Chinese dumplings, or steam buns, or even in his pasta like bolognese and lasagnas and that sort of thing, and he doesn't notice it. So it's a good way of getting extra qualities as well. And some do say that even if you buy shop mushrooms, sorry guys, there was a bit of a connection issue there for a sec, but I was going to say, just leave your mushrooms out in the sunlight for a couple of hours, and that they will continue to absorb that vitamin D from the sun, so that gives you more of a boost as well. And one other reason why I love having foraged mushrooms is because they're grown in an all-natural environment. They're getting that sunlight, they're getting all those beautiful nutrients. So these ones also, the agaricus, which grow around native trees like eucalyptus, they just taste divine, very shroomy, very like just not in like a, some I find are very pungent, but these are just, they have that umami flavour, which is really quite lovely. So that's cooking down nicely, and while that's cooking, I'll actually show you some of the little baby ones I picked today. So I've given these ones here a wash. I don't know if you can see them too well. I might flip the camera around. So these are a native agaricus, which are found growing near eucalyptus trees. And they look almost like a Swiss brown, don't they? And these are at the button stage. And the one I showed you before was when they're open. So you can see the difference there in stages. And when you give these a scratch, you can see that bit of a brown sort of staining on the outside. That's what you want to look for. You don't want any yellowing at all. And the smell too. So if you give them a smell, they just smell nice and mushroomy. They don't smell off like a chemical, phenol, which is the compound which makes them smell gross. Anyway, you can see how much that's reduced. There we go. So what I'll do, sorry guys, my connection is like really bad. I find since the kids started homeschooling as well, we're blowing through our data. I don't have unlimited internet here. I'm on 100 gig, and we're really pushing that boundary at the moment with homeschooling, because I've got the two kids on either the computer or the laptop trying to do their schoolwork at the same time. So anyway, I'll just grab those mushies and scoop them in. Alright, let's go back to the, sorry, I'll come back for you. There we go. Alright, so I'll just clear this off. We don't need that. In my bowl over here, I have some potato, which I've just boiled and mashed. So there's 2 cups there. I'm actually doubling the filling because I just had so many potatoes that I wanted to use up. So I'm see how much the dough stretches out and see how many I'll get out of it before I decide to make some more or not. But anyway, so in the bowl goes the mushrooms with the potato. Then I've got 2 egg yolks. So I'll pop that in also. You can half this recipe. I've doubled it. So otherwise it'd be just 1 cup of mashed potato, 1 egg yolk. Here I have 1 cup of ricotta. So if you're halving it, just do the half a cup of ricotta. And I've got 1 block of cream cheese here. So just do half a block if you're halving it. Now the cream cheese I've left out for about an hour at room temperature just to soften up a little bit. Otherwise it gets way too hard to mix in with everything. And you know what? I think I'm just going to pop a glove on and just get into this with my hands. So the other thing I wanted to show you guys was some angled onion. So this is it's actually classified as a noxious weed. You're not allowed to grow it or cultivate it legally at all. It's found everywhere. Parks, bushlands, like anywhere you go, you will see angled onion. And I'll show you what it looks like. So they come in these beautiful, it looks like grass. It's not grass, I promise. If I can grab this stalk here, you can see how it's called angled onion because it grows on a bit of a, it's got like an angled shape. I don't know if you can see that too well. But every part of this plant is edible. So from the bulb, which grows under the ground, all the way up to the foliage. And then when it flowers, the flowers are delicious. They have this lovely garlicky sort of taste. And I love using them in salads because they're so pretty. They're like a pretty edible flower. And even when they go to seed, their seed pods, when they're young, are really quite yummy too. They're crunchy and reminds me a little bit of the texture of a radish pod, if anyone's tried those. Anyway, I'm putting in some angled onion. You know what I forgot to do? I actually forgot to put in the garlic that I had chopped up while I was sauteing the mushrooms and the onion. But that's okay. I'll pop that in with the bacon and the other onion that I'm going to cook a bit later. So into the mixture, not sure if you guys can see me just squishing it all in. You just want to mix it up really well. This is the easiest way I find to get a good mixture. And you want to add some salt and pepper too. So just do it to taste. I'd probably start with maybe a teaspoon-ish. Don't want to go too heavy, and just give it a little nibble before you start to wrap them into the dough. So you can leave these completely vegetarian. You can add meat to it if you wanted to. You can add in when you're doing your onions and the mushrooms, or no mushrooms, whatever you decide. You can brown some mince into it. Chicken or pork would be really nice. Turkey even would be nice. Beef would probably work just as well. Yeah, whatever you like, whatever takes your fancy. Heike, you can be so prepared. Like I had the garlic all chopped up and in its own little bowl. It was right there in front of me. But, and I even thought, don't forget the garlic. But I still forgot the garlic. Anyway, so you can see now that's all combined nicely. I'll give it a little taste. See how we are for salt. Wow. Oh, those mushrooms really do stand out in a subtle way, like, but the flavor is there, and oh my gosh, it lingers. Like, oh wow, so good. Anyway, oh, I'm just salivating still from that tiny bit on my spoon. Wow, it's so simple. Like, there's not a lot going on in here, but just those flavors just work so well. bit of pepper. I won't put too much in because the kids don't really like it. But you know what? I'm putting angled onion into this, so that'll give it that garlicky flavour. So I might just add a little bit more to make up for the garlic I forgot to add in. That should do it, I think. Alright, that looks really quite nice. Unfortunately, the colour itself doesn't look great because of the mushrooms have made it gone like a dark sort of mushroomy colour. But that's okay. Once they're all wrapped up in the pastry, they'll be beautiful. Right, so here we have our dough. I might just turn up the water that I had on the stove just to get that boiling. Now with your cutters, you can use whatever size you like, you know, just whatever size you like your pierogi. If you want them tiny and bite-sized pieces, use a small cutter. If you want it larger, so like for an entree, maybe like to have one large or two large pierogi each, that's fine as well. So I'm just breaking off a piece. I don't know if you guys can see the bench in front. Okay, so very simply breaking off a piece of dough, rolling it out thin, because it will expand as it cooks. Oops. It's a very forgiving dough, so you don't have to be precious with it at all. It's so easy to work with. With your cutter, got your pastry right there, so you can see how thin that is. I don't know, like 2-3 mil, something like that, and you can see it's shrinking already, but it will stretch. So I just pop it back down and give it a stretch, and it doesn't even matter once you re-roll it a bit if it kind of becomes out of shape a bit, like it's not a complete circle. Does not matter at all. So then into that you'll pop your filling, and it is simply as, these aren't as difficult as Chinese dumplings. So squeeze together at the top, because we kind of want these in a pillow shape, whereas the Chinese dumplings, because they're steamed, you want them sitting up, or boiled even. I just boil mine, to be honest. These being pillow shaped because you want to pan fry them and have that golden colour on either side. So it's so simple. Don't need to do pleats or anything like that. And you've got your beautiful little pillow here of a pierogi. So I'll do a couple of those and then boil them up. Yep, the dough does shrink a little bit, but that's perfectly fine. Pop your filling in. I always tend to overfill my dumplings because I hate when it's all pastry. Now this is like a diabetic's nightmare right now, so I might have 1 or 2, maybe. Kids can have the rest. These also freeze really quite well as well. So what you want to do is, after you've assembled your pierogis, place them on a baking tray, single layer, not touching, Freeze them. Once they're frozen, then you can bag them up or pop them into a container or store them however you wish then, and it doesn't matter if they're touching at that point. It's just when you're freezing them, you don't want them to be touching because they'll stick together before they're frozen, and then you'll never get them apart and all your hard work will be gone for nothing. Right, so there's 3 done so far. It doesn't take that long, really. Chinese dumplings people tend to struggle with a little bit more because there's more plates and that sort of thing involved, and there's a bit of an aesthetic to it, I suppose. Whereas these are really quite rustic, if that's the right word. Again, I'm overfilling these, but that's how I like them. I like them full. Heike, I make these pretty much every mushroom season, to be honest. And I went through my last bag of frozen ones maybe a month or 2 ago. I'm going to bring you guys back over to the stove because I can hear the water boiling away. So I'll give my hands a bit of a wipe down so I don't have mashed potato all over me. Sorry, that's my soda stream in the way there. How's that? Excellent. All right, so just a pot of boiling water. I've probably gone a bit overkill with my big giant pot because I'm not cooking that much tonight, but they really don't take very long to actually cook at all. So you'll pop them into your water. Give it a little bit of a stir so they don't stick to the bottom. Let that go. Once they start floating, the pastry will be cooked and the mushroom itself, not the mushroom, I'm looking at mushrooms. So I slipped there, but the pierogi itself will be cooked as well. I'll just move these mushies out the way. So now, while they're in the pot, I'm just going to brown off a little bit more onion and the bacon. Now, of course, you don't have to add bacon if you want to keep it vegetarian. You can just do some onion, or leek even is really quite nice, just in some butter, or if you're going vegan, perhaps you could change it to olive oil instead, or your choice of oil. If more mushrooms, you could leave the mushrooms out of the filling and put it in with the onions as the topping even. The possibilities are absolutely endless with this. So the recipe, speaking of vegan, we probably couldn't make it vegan with the pastry having yogurt and, sour cream. I'll have to have a think about that one and see if we could adapt it somehow. You could use water, obviously. Maybe like a nut milk might work. I'm not sure how with the fat, if it needs that fat content, maybe you could substitute with, maybe like a bit of a nut butter. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's something to work on for a vegan option. It can be made vegetarian at least, anyway. So I'll switch the camera around again and I'll just show you how they've started floating. So it hasn't quite come to a rapid boil again yet, but they've started floating, so I'll probably just wait until that comes up to a really rapid boil, just for a minute or two. And of course the bacon and the onion is browning away. So another thing I love to serve with this is either kielbasa or kransky if you can't get any kielbasa. Any of your sausages that you can get from the deli or the supermarket, whatever you can get your hands on. Make your own meat, that's even better. Make your own small goods, that's something I would really like to get back into again. But we never have time to do everything that we want to. Life gets pretty hectic, doesn't it? Okay, so you can see that's starting to come back up to that nice boil. And at this point, either take your bacon and onion out and just pop that in a separate dish, or switch it back around. I like to pop a bit more butter in. I know, this is such a naughty meal. It's like very much comfort food to the max because you've got those carbohydrates and fats. So it's very much a comfort food, that's for sure. Maybe a little drizzle of olive oil in there as well. So at this point, I just like to drain them out. I don't know if you can see. Drain the pierogis out. Straight into the pan. Just make sure they don't stick. Woo! Popping bacon there. So I'll grab a plate ready because it only needs a short amount of time to brown up quite nicely. Dangerous there. Popping bacon. All right. Splatter guard might help with that. Anyway. So that's pretty much the pierogi's done. Nice and crispy and soft on the inside and crispy on the outside. Exactly how we want it. I'll just plate those. Turn that off. That might help. Cooking can certainly be a bit of a dangerous sport sometimes. I don't know how many accidents and incidents I've had between burnt fingers, severed tendons. Thank you, my little pinky, for my permanently crooked finger now from a severed tendon. Burns, dangerous sport. But it's all fun, isn't it? And when that food hits our taste buds, nothing else matters. So On top of the pierogi, I'll just top with a little bit of bacon and onion. And then I like adding some extra parmesan as well. So I'll just shave some parmesan onto that. Garnish with some more herbs. So if you have parsley or chives or some dill, whatever you like. And there is our beautiful plate of pierogi. We'll switch the camera around and you can have another look-sees. There we go. Nice and golden and crispy pierogis, soft in the middle, bacon and onion and parmesan. Oh, this is one of my most favourite things in the world. And they, when you're cooking from frozen, straight into a pot of boiling water, and then once they start floating, done. You can just have them that way without pan frying them again if you like. Completely up to you. But anyway, thank you so much for watching and tuning in. That is my Polish pierogi inspired by the lovely Grażyna from my high school best friend. She was my second mother growing up. So thank you very much for tuning in, guys. And if you have any questions, please, peas. I'm growing too many pea sprouts. They're on my brain. Please feel free to message and ask. And afterwards, I'll pop a quick type up of my recipe in the comments. Ciao.